Hi there. I'm Cindy Linden, and this is a Cookalong podcast quick bite. I'm going to tell you how to make your own creme fraiche today. It's much more fun than just buying it in the store, and some of you may not even use creme fraiche because you're not sure why or how or what it is. I first was introduced to creme fraiche in what I consider to be a bizarre way, which was as part of a kale salad. To me, that seems really a strange idea to put effectively whipping cream on something like kale. But not only is it the first time I realized how easy it was to make creme fraiche, but also how good it is, and it's the first time that I realized I could like kale. So it was kind of a big moment in my vegetable life as well as in my dairy life. Creme fraiche is a little like sour cream, but it's less sour, it's less thick, it's creamier and smoother, and more luxurious in its texture than sour cream. It's a French thing, and it's spelled C-R-E-M-E, separate word, F-R-A-I-C-H-E. And there are all kinds of ways to use it. It's creamy, it's silky, it's super indulgent, and it can be used as a sauce for salmon, particularly if you add some herbs to it. It can be used also same way for chicken. It can be used in desserts like panna cotta or creme brulee. It can be sauce for pasta or over potatoes, or you can even make ice cream from it. You can bake with it, put it over risotto for a especially decadent dish. You can make dips with it, put it on pancakes, and make scones with it. Or you can serve it as a dressing for a massaged kale salad. It's something you can find in your grocery store. It's going to be in the deli dairy section. And there won't be a lot of it. There's probably only going to be one brand, and it'll probably be a small container, kind of like a commercialized potato chip dip, so small little 8-ounce flat-ish, roundish container. And they're good. I'm not going to in any way diss that. It's faster and it's easier if you need creme fraiche, because the most expensive ingredient in creme fraiche is thyme. Otherwise, it's almost nothing, and it's really kind of fun to watch it do its thing at home. It's a little like creating a sourdough starter. It's something that takes a little time to kind of grow the right kind of bacteria. And I hope that word doesn't put you off, because bacteria can be a really good thing. It's what makes cheese. It's what makes sour cream. It's what makes buttermilk. It makes all kinds of good food. So please don't be put off by that. This is a fun way to use it to make something yummy. I'm not making it with you for two reasons. The first is that, like most quick bites, it's a super easy, small number of ingredients kind of recipe. And secondly, as I said, the biggest ingredient is thyme, and I can't entertain you for the 24 hours or 72 hours it's going to take to make this. So I'm just going to tell you what to do, and then I hope you'll go try it and look online for recipes with which to use it. It's sort of an in-the-know kind of chef's thing that when you serve it and you say, well, it's blah, blah, blah with creme fraiche, it makes you sound fancy schmancy, like you cook for a living. And even though it's a simple thing and people will recognize that it's not a complex dish, the fact that you made your own will impress them and leave them thinking you're perhaps a much better chef than you consider yourself to be. This is so easy to make that you really just ought to do it for the chemistry experiment, because it's fun. You need a cup of heavy whipping cream, and you need 2 tablespoons of buttermilk. And if you're like me, if you've taken my suggestion, you keep buttermilk in your house in the form of frozen cubes that you made in an ice cube tray and store in your freezer in a Ziploc bag. That way you can make this whenever you want. Personally, I always have the buttermilk cubes in my freezer, and I always have heavy whipping cream in my refrigerator because it keeps a really long time, and you just never know when you're going to want it in a sauce of some kind or a baked good. So here is the tricky way that you make creme fraiche. You put into a glass container a cup of whipping cream and 2 tablespoons of buttermilk. For me, that's 1 frozen cube. And I don't even warm it first, although I should. It would make things go a lot faster. You cover that with a clean cloth and you let it stand at room temperature, which hopefully is around 70 degrees, for as long as it takes until it's very thick, but you can still pour it. That could take 12 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours. It's going to depend partly on how consistent the temperature is where it's sitting. When it's done, it'll be very thick and it will be a little tangy and it will be a successful science experiment. I'm afraid I do look at a lot of cooking that way, but especially when something that you start with turns into something different just by the process of some chemical reaction. I just love that. I do have a second recipe for creme fraiche that I've never used because it seems like more work, but I'll tell you about it because it might make it happen faster and it also might make it a little maybe thicker. I don't know. It's hard to say. The note on this recipe says that it can be substituted for either whipping cream or heavy whipping cream in most recipes and for sour cream in some recipes. If you use it in place of whipping cream, it's going to be a little more tart. It'll have a little zing to it and it'll be a little thicker. If you use it in place of sour cream in a recipe, it'll be a little less tart than the sour cream and a little thinner. This one asks for only 1 tablespoon of buttermilk. It's the same cup of heavy whipping cream, but you put that and 1 tablespoon of buttermilk into a saucepan. And I think you'll need the 1 tablespoon because you're about to heat it up. You heat it up over medium heat for 30 to 60 seconds, stirring till it's just slightly warm. 100 degrees, 110 degrees, it's really smart to have some sort of thermometer so you can gauge that, because if you go too high, you're going to kill the cultures that you want to encourage to grow. And then, after you've done that, you pour that into the glass bowl, you cover it with a cloth or with plastic wrap, and then you let it stand at room temperature for 12 to 24 hours. And it's going to, again, become a little sour and a little thickened. Either way you make it, once it's done, you can just keep it in its glass jar in your refrigerator, and it'll continue to thicken and get a little tangier as it sits, which is kind of fun also. You don't want to leave it more than 10 days, maybe 2 weeks tops. If it thickens unevenly, you're going to want to stir it before you use it so that it's all of the same consistency. That's all there is to making your own very French, very sophisticated sauce to use on all kinds of fun things. Really, just type into the internet ways to use creme fraiche, recipes using creme fraiche, something like that, and you'll find all kinds of things. What you will have when you finish this little chemistry experiment is about a cup, and you can double it if you want to, but it'll take a little more time to get to the right temperature and thickness. Since you don't have a real time prediction on it anyway, what the heck, go for broke. Get 2 cups. You'll find out a cup goes very fast. The kale salad recipe I mentioned to you uses the whole cup of it. And you know what? While I've got you here, I might as well tell you about the kale salad at the same time in case you want to try this highly unusual recipe. You use 2 large bunches of fresh kale and you trim off all the leaves, get rid of the ribs in the middle, and then you massage it, which means you just take bunches of it in both hands and squeeze it and rub them together and repeat and just squish it and squeeze it until it gets kind of silky and the leaves get darker. They're going to get a lot smaller and a lot softer. And then you drizzle that with maybe a half a cup of olive oil. You toss it around. You combine the creme fraiche that you just made with the juice of a lemon, which is about 1/4 of a cup, and a minced or shredded garlic clove, a little sea salt and fresh ground pepper to taste. You mix all that together. You pour that dressing over the kale, and you sprinkle it with toasted pine nuts. And you have this really remarkable kale salad. It's that simple. So there, now you have the recipe for creme fraiche, some ideas of where to go find ways to use it, and a recipe in which to try it without having to look anything up. That's today's quick bite. I hope you have fun with this chemistry in your kitchen. There are, of course, new episodes of the Cookalong podcast every Saturday. Tell a friend that you listen and ask them to listen to something that you enjoyed listening to here on the Cookalong podcast. And until next time, happy cooking!